Have you ever tolerated someone's disrespect just to keep the peace and later realized you lost your peace anyway? Today we're going to break that cycle. We're going to talk about why you must stop tolerating what drains you and how doing so will transform your life. My dear friends, one of the greatest tragedies of life is not that people underestimate us, it is that we allow them to. And why does that happen? Because somewhere deep within, we have not taken the time to sit with ourselves and understand our own worth. When a person does not know the value of a diamond, they might treat it like a simple stone. The diamond is not at fault, the perception is. But if the diamond itself forgets its shine, then even dust will seem acceptable. Knowing your worth is not arrogance, and it is not ego. It is clarity. It is self-awareness. It is a gentle but firm recognition that you are not here to be treated casually, spoken to carelessly, or taken for granted repeatedly. Many people spend their entire lives adjusting themselves to fit into spaces where they were never meant to belong. They shrink their voice, they reduce their expectations, and they silently tolerate behaviors that slowly chip away at their confidence. And all of this happens because they never ask themselves a simple question: what am I worth? Imagine a tree. It grows steadily, quietly, and gracefully. But it grows with a certain dignity. Its roots are firm, its branches rise high, and its presence is undeniable. It doesn't bend for every passing wind. It doesn't apologize for taking space. It doesn't shrink because a smaller plant feels intimidated by its height. It knows its nature. It honors it. When you know your worth, you become like that tree, rooted, steady, unshakable. But the problem many people face is this: they expect others to treat them properly before they themselves have learned how to treat themselves. They hope someone will value them, respect them, appreciate them, or uplift them, while they themselves speak negatively to their own mind, settle for less, and constantly look for external validation. How can the world value someone who has not yet valued their own thoughts, time, energy, and presence? Knowing your worth begins from within. It is a quiet decision to stop accepting apologies that come without changed behavior. It is the maturity to stop giving chances to people who misuse your kindness as an invitation to walk all over you. It is the understanding that your time and your energy are precious, and not everyone deserves equal access to them. When you recognize your worth, you don't become rude, you become selective. You don't become proud, you become peaceful. You don't become difficult, you become discerning. Sometimes the reason people take advantage of you is not because they are bad, but because you have made it easy. You respond too quickly. Even when you know the person never prioritizes you, you forgive too quickly, even when they repeat the same behavior. You give too quickly, even when they never return the same kindness. And slowly, without realizing it, you normalize a cycle where your value is reduced and their entitlement increases. Knowing your worth breaks this cycle. Think of a shopkeeper who knows the value of his goods. He will not give a high-quality item at a cheap price just because someone asks for it. He doesn't feel guilty when he sets his price. He doesn't feel insecure when someone walks away. He knows what he's offering. In the same way, when you truly understand what you bring to the table, your loyalty, your sincerity, your effort, your kindness, you stop begging for appreciation. You stop chasing after those who do not see your value. You stop tolerating behaviors that make you question your own dignity. The world's opinion of you fluctuates like the weather. One day you are praised, another day you are forgotten, and on some days you may even be criticized or misunderstood. But your worth is not determined by someone's mood, convenience, or temporary perception. Your worth is rooted in your character, your integrity, your values, and the sincerity of your heart. That does not change because someone failed to see it. Ask yourself, why do I tolerate things that make me feel smaller? Why do I remain silent when something inside me is clearly uncomfortable? Why do I adjust for people who wouldn't take a single step to adjust for me? When you start answering these questions honestly, you begin to discover your real worth. You realize that respect is not something you ask for, it is something you embody. And when you embody it, life becomes clearer, your decisions become stronger, and your relationships become healthier. Knowing your worth is not about pushing people away, it is about filtering who truly deserves to stay. My dear friends, one of the biggest misunderstandings people have is believing that boundaries push others away. In reality, boundaries do not separate you from people, they separate you from chaos. They are not walls that isolate, they are filters that protect. They protect your peace, your time, your emotional well-being, and your sense of self-respect. Just like every home has a door, not because we hate the outside world, but because we value the safety inside, every person needs boundaries to preserve the dignity of their inner life. Think for a moment, would you ever leave your house unlocked, allowing anyone to walk in, rearrange your belongings, speak however they want, eat whatever they want, and leave whenever they feel like? Of course not. But emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, many people leave themselves unlocked every single day. They allow others to speak disrespectfully, take advantage of their kindness, drain their energy, and cross lines that should have been guarded. This is not generosity. This is neglect of oneself. Boundaries are an act of love, love for yourself and even love for others. When you set clear boundaries, you're not only protecting your peace, but also teaching others how to treat you. People cannot respect what you do not define. They cannot understand what you do not express. And they cannot honor limits that you never communicate. The moment you draw a clear line, you give others the opportunity to adjust their behavior. If they don't, that reveals everything. Imagine a beautiful garden. Flowers bloom, trees sway gently, and the air is filled with fragrance. But the garden needs a fence, not to trap the garden, but to protect it from animals, from wandering strangers, from things that may unknowingly destroy the beauty inside. Without a boundary, even something small can damage the root of something precious. In the same way, without personal boundaries, even well-intentioned people can unknowingly hurt us, drain us, or interfere with parts of our life that require space. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they fear being seen as rude or selfish, but selfishness is when you care only for yourself and ignore others. Boundaries are when you care for yourself and teach others how to care for you. There is a very simple truth. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always see your boundaries as an offense. But the right people will understand them, respect them, and even appreciate them. The absence of boundaries often leads to emotional exhaustion. You try to be available for everyone. You try to solve everyone's problems. You try to make everyone happy. And slowly, you end up losing parts of yourself in the process. You start feeling drained, overwhelmed, unappreciated, and invisible, not because people are unkind, but because you never communicated where your limit lies. A boundary is not always a loud declaration. Sometimes it is simply saying no without guilt. Sometimes it is taking a break before you burn out. Sometimes it is refusing to respond to disrespect. Sometimes it is ending a conversation that crosses a line. Sometimes it is choosing silence instead of reacting. And sometimes it is walking away from situations that repeatedly disturb your inner balance. Think of a cup of water. You cannot keep pouring into everyone else's cup if yours is empty. Boundaries ensure that you fill yourself first, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, so that whatever you give to others is given with sincerity and without resentment. Without boundaries, even kindness becomes heavy and even love becomes tiring. Another important aspect of boundaries is understanding that they help maintain the quality of your relationships. When people know your limits, they learn to respect them. Boundaries create clarity. Clarity creates healthy interaction. Healthy interaction creates stronger relationships. So the purpose of a boundary is not to push people away, but to remove the misunderstandings that come from unspoken expectations. Ask yourself, how many times have you allowed someone to speak to you in a tone that hurt you, yet you remained silent? How many times have you agreed to something you didn't want to do just to avoid disappointing someone? How many times have you sacrificed your own peace because you feared losing a relationship? Each of these moments reveals a misplaced boundary or no boundary at all. And here is another truth. You teach people how to treat you not by what you preach, but by what you tolerate. If you tolerate disrespect, it becomes the norm. If you tolerate inconsistency, it becomes acceptable. If you tolerate manipulation, it becomes a pattern. Boundaries break these patterns and create a new standard. Boundaries are a sign of maturity. They show that you have understood your emotional capacity and the value of your own peace. They show that you choose respect over approval. They show that you refuse to let anyone intentionally or unintentionally disturb your inner harmony. When you learn to set boundaries, you begin to live differently. You feel lighter, clearer, more confident, and more at peace. You stop trying to please everyone and start honoring yourself. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop giving energy to things that drain you. You stop allowing people to cross lines that keep your heart safe. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling what you allow into your life. And when you control that, you control the quality of your life itself. My dear friends, silence is a beautiful quality. It carries wisdom, peace, depth, and maturity. Many problems in life can be solved simply by staying quiet, by observing, by thinking, by choosing not to react impulsively. Silence helps us avoid unnecessary conflicts. It protects our energy, and it allows us to respond with clarity instead of emotion. But as powerful as silence is, it becomes harmful the moment it is used in the wrong place, at the wrong time, and for the wrong reasons. There are moments when silence is strength, and there are moments when silence becomes surrender. When you remain silent in the face of disrespect, even unintentionally, you send a message, it's okay. I accept this. You may do it again. And believe me, people learn from your silence far faster than they learn from your words. Think about a relationship where one person constantly makes hurtful jokes at the other's expense. At first, the person being teased stays silent because they don't want to create conflict. They convince themselves it's not a big deal. They avoid speaking up because they fear being labeled sensitive. But over time, the jokes become more frequent and more cutting. Why? Because the silence taught the other person that this behavior is acceptable. Silence became permission. Silence without courage becomes an invitation for disrespect. We often choose silence because we don't want to lose people. But the truth is, losing yourself in order to keep someone else is too high a price to pay. When you allow disrespect to continue, your self-esteem slowly weakens. You start questioning your own worth. You start thinking, maybe you deserve this. Maybe this is normal. Maybe you're overreacting. Silence becomes a prison where you trap your own voice. But your voice matters. Your boundaries matter. Your peace matters. There is a silence that comes from wisdom, like choosing not to respond to provocation or gossip. But there is another silence that comes from fear. Fear of conflict, fear of judgment, fear of losing relationships. The first kind of silence elevates you. The second kind erases you. The first protects your peace. The second sacrifices it. Imagine a river flowing gently. It is calm, peaceful, and silent. But if someone throws garbage into the river every single day, and the river continues to stay silent, eventually the water becomes polluted. The river didn't do anything wrong. It simply allowed too much without cleansing its space. That is what happens to us when we tolerate disrespect quietly. Even the purest heart becomes burdened when it allows too much without speaking up. Speaking up doesn't always mean arguing or fighting. It means calmly expressing what is not acceptable. It means saying, please don't speak to me like that. It means choosing to walk away from a conversation that crosses a line. It means setting limits that protect your emotional environment. Silence is not the absence of voice. Silence is the presence of control. And using that control wisely is what makes silence powerful. Many people misunderstand silence as weakness, but real strength is knowing when to stay silent and when to speak up, when to preserve your energy and when to defend your dignity, when to let go and when to stand firm. Silence becomes wisdom only when it doesn't come at the cost of your self-respect. If your silence is helping someone grow, it is wisdom. If your silence is helping someone hurt you, it is weakness. Think of a child. If a child misbehaves and the parents remain silent every time, the child will never understand that something is wrong. The child will repeat the behavior because silence indicated approval. Adults are no different. When people realize they can behave badly and you will tolerate it, the pattern grows. And once a pattern of disrespect is established, breaking it becomes more painful. Sometimes we tell ourselves, maybe it's not worth saying anything. But ask yourself honestly, how many times have you swallowed your feelings just to keep peace? How many times have you replayed conversations in your head because you stayed silent when you should have spoken? How many times has your silence cost you your own peace? People often regret the words they said in anger, but they regret even more the words they never said when their heart needed defending. Silence is peaceful, but peace is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of respect. And respect cannot grow in places where silence protects the wrong behavior. You deserve relationships where you feel safe to express your feelings. You deserve conversations where your voice matters. You deserve environments where silence is a choice, not a survival mechanism. You deserve to be heard, valued, and understood. The key is balance. Use silence to avoid unnecessary arguments, but use your voice to prevent unnecessary pain. Use silence to stay calm, but use your voice to stay respected. Use silence to elevate your character, but use your voice to protect your dignity. Silence becomes strength when it is chosen. It becomes weakness when it is forced. When silence preserves your inner world, keep it. But when silence destroys your self-worth, break it. My dear friends, the moment you realize your peace and self-respect are priceless, everything changes. Life asks us to grow, not to shrink for others. You are not here to tolerate behavior that wounds your spirit or dims your light. Every time you allow disrespect, even in silence, you teach others what is acceptable, and what is acceptable should always honor your worth. Choosing not to tolerate what harms you is not arrogance, it is wisdom. It is the courage to protect your heart, set healthy boundaries, and walk away from situations that diminish you. Remember, your life is shaped as much by what you refuse to accept as by what you pursue. So pause, reflect, and make this promise to yourself. I will honor my worth. I will not allow anyone to disrespect, manipulate, or drain me. I will choose peace, clarity, and dignity always. When you live this way, you don't just survive life, you rise in it.